Hello, you glorious and majestic moonchild. Let's talk about communication. The number one thing that I have learned as a clarity coach after going through speaker training programs, after reading many books on communication, after having conversations with people and then reflecting afterwards, both with myself and with them, about how I could communicate better and more effectively, about how I could listen better and how I could respond better and how I could be more conscientious. The number one thing that I have learned is that if you think that you communicate well, you need to over communicate. Over communicate. Like, you need to over explain what you mean. And I'm not talking about needing to go on long tangents and, like, deeply explain your reasoning behind everything. What I mean by that is that when you start to say something to someone, you also have to think about what they might understand or what they might be thinking about. Now, again, I'm not talking about going down a rabbit hole and trying to think of every possible thing that they're thinking or feeling in the moment. But if you don't tailor what you're saying to other people, then there's a greater chance of miscommunication. There's this phrase that has been going around the internet that talks about how you're not responsible for what other people understand. And to a degree, that's true. You can't control other people. You can't influence what they're going to understand or how they're going to interpret something. And you certainly can't know every mood that they're in or every past experience and belief that they have that will filter this communication for them. And also, you are responsible for checking in with someone to make sure that they are understanding the intention behind your words. If you just say something and then they misunderstand it, and then you get angry because they misunderstood it in a way that you didn't intend, that doesn't actually solve the problem. And so when it comes to over communicating, sometimes that means when you say something and they respond and you feel yourself being activated by what they say, and you are tempted to fire off something from that place of activation, step back and take a moment to get curious. And I know in the moment it can be really hard to be curious with ourselves, which is why what I typically do is I ask the other person to clarify. And I will ask specifically what I need clarification around. So I will say something like, I hear that you said this, but my brain is hearing it in this way. So I'm not sure if that's what you meant or if you meant something different. Could you clarify? And then I'll know better how I want to respond. And what that does is not only does it pattern interrupt that tendency to want to respond and react, but it also gives them a chance to think about what they said and how they said it. And sometimes they will even backtrack and say, you know what, you're right. That came off in a way that I didn't intend, and I'm sorry. Assuming that they are also interested in emotional intelligence and communicating effectively, right? And it lets them say it maybe in a different way or a more complex way or in a way that they can be clearer about their actual intent in what they're asking. And it gives you a chance to pause because now your brain has space between what they initially said that made you react, that had a piece of activation within you, and it gives you that breathing moment while they're answering the question or thinking and then answering before you then respond again. One other way that over communicating has really helped me is via text message. Obviously, via text, even when you know someone really well, it can be hard to indicate a specific tone of voice or sarcasm or a joke. And so sometimes I will literally, type something out and I'll think they might not receive this in the way that I intended because it's a text message. And then I will put in the same text message, I hope you hear this in the way that I intended with a full heart and appreciation for what you're going through. Or I hope that doesn't sound dismissive. That's not my intention. I'm trying to ask for clarity, so like spelling out what it is that I'm tripping over that I think they might trip over. Does that make sense? Do you over communicate in your life? And do you need help when it comes to finding the line between over communicating for clarity and over communicating to feel valued? I'd love to know.